Okay, so today we would like to speak about what the Hanani, Mishael, and Azariah learned from the frogs. So the Gemara in Pesachim says, why did Hanani, Mishael, and Azariah jump into the fire when Nebuchadnezzar made a big statue and he forced everybody to bow to the statue that he made? Hanani, Mishael, and Azariah did not want to jump in, and they rather to go into the fire. The Gemara says in Pesachim Daf Nun Gimel with Beis, Gemara says as follows: Mipnei Maro Hanani, Mishael, and Azariah shemosu atzmim al kedushas Hashem lakiv shana eish. Why did they remoiser nefesh on kiddush Hashem lakiv shana eish? Nosu kavachomer be'atzmim mitzvardeim. They learned from the frogs. Umat tzvardeim she'ein mitzuvim al kedushas Hashem. If the frogs that they're not mitzuvah and kedushas Hashem to be Mekadech chem chamaim, ksiv behu bo v'olu b'beisecha u'b'tanuach u'misharoisecha. Emosa misharois mitzuyois etzel tanu aviyoymer b'shosha tanu cham. The frogs, they jumped into the ovens. When in the ovens there's misharois seichem, the bread, when the oven is hot. And even so, they're willing to jump inside the ovens. So Anu said Hanani, Mishael, and Azariah, Anu shemitzuvin kedushas Hashem, that we have the mitzvah and we chayav on kedushas Hashem. Ala chaskama v'kama, for sure we should jump inside. So the shaila is Hanani, Mishael, and Azariah are learning from the tzvardeim. The shaila is tzvardeim, they don't have no isser to kill themselves. Masha'enken Hanani, Mishael, and Azariah, they have an isser to kill themselves. Because we know, the Gemara says that if somebody forces you to do Aveira, and if he won't do that Aveira, he'll kill you. So we have the concept. If it's Gimel Aveiros, that is Avodah Zarah Gilai Shvichas Damim, so Yehoreg ve'al Yavor. You get killed and don't be over the Aveira. But if it's all the rest of the mitzvahs of the Torah, Kol mitzvahs of the Torah, Yavor ve'al Yehoreg. You get over the Aveira and don't get killed. So and from where do we learn this? The Gemara says, and Rashi says in Sanhedrin and Dalet, Rashi explains that we learn it out from the pasuk that says v'chai bohem. We read in Parshas Achrimos last week, v'chai bohem. We learned v'chai bohem when the Torah gave us the Torah in order to live. V'chai bohem v'lo sheyamus bohem. V'lo sheyamus bohem. The Gimel Aveiros, the Torah said, even though you're going to die, you should not over that verse. We have limudim in the Gemara over there in Sanhedrin. But in the rest of the Torah, all the verses of the Torah, so the halacha is Ya'oreg ve'ayavor v'chai bohem v'lo sheyamus bohem. The Torah is given in order for us to live and not to die. And if the Torah is making us to die, so we over on the Torah. That's what the Gemara says in Sanhedrin. So the shaila is, how can Hanani, Mishael, and Azariah learn from the tzvardeim? How can they learn from the frogs? The frogs, they don't have the mitzvah. V'chai bohem v'lo sheyamus bohem. Masha'enken Hanani, Mishael, and Azariah, they have the mitzvah. And so when Rashi says, Mipnei Maro Hanani, Mishael, and Azariah, Rashi says, Shelo dorshu v'chai bohem v'lo sheyamus bohem. Rashi says that's a shaila. Why didn't they learn the drasha of v'chai bohem? So what is the answer? Because they learn from the tzvardeim. But tzvardeim don't have that mitzvah of v'chai bohem. So now, let's look into the halacha of Kol Aver Shabbat Torah. We know that kol haver shebaTorah, like how we said, kol haver shebaTorah, yoreg, yaver val yoreg. You be over the avera, and don't kill yourself. Don't get killed. What is the halacha if a guy doesn't want to do the avera? They force him to eat an avela. Someone gets not kosher. They force him to eat it, and he doesn't want to eat. They say to him, if you don't eat it, we'll kill you. He says, I don't care. I'm going to get killed. I'm not going to be over the avera. What is the halacha? Could he get killed or no? So the famous Rambam that says that if he gets killed, he's mischayev benafshay. That means that it's his fault, and it's like he killed himself. And we know mischayev benafshay is very chamor. That's the Rambam. But she does Teisvis in Avodah Zarah, of Chav Zayin with Beis. Shitas Teisvis says that if he wants to be machmir on himself and to get killed, he's allowed. And the Shulchan Aruch paskins that Shitas Teisvis. Shulchan Aruch Yodea Siman Kuf Nun Zayin Kol Haver shebaTorah chutz me'avodas kechavim Gil Arai Shvichos Damim Im Oimim Lo L'Adam Sheyaver Aleim Ve'o Yehareg Imu Betzina Yaver Ve'al Yehareg. He's over and he doesn't get killed. V'im yirtze le'achmir al atzmoi v'liyoreg rashai. If he wants to be machmir on himself and to get killed, he's rasha. That's just teisvis. He's allowed to get killed. So the shaila is, what is the machlokes Rambam and teisvis? If he gets killed, if he's mischayev nafshoy, like the shit's Rambam, and she's teisvis is that he's allowed. What is the svaras? Svar of the Rambam, svar of the teisvis. So Rabbi Yochanan Kavitz says as follows. The shaila is when the Torah says v'chayim v'lo yisharemus b'hem, that when you force to do avera or to get killed, you should chose the chay to be alive, and you have the avera. Is the pshat is that it's tchuya? It's just the Torah is just the avera. The avera is nitche, but really you over an avera. It's considered that you over avera. You have over here avera in front of you. Just you don't have any choice. You honest, so you doiche the avera and you eat the thing that you're not allowed. Or the pshat is that it's hutra, when you force to do avera, and if not, you're going to get killed. So there's no avera here. The Torah says that all the averas, all the mitzvahs and averas that the Torah is giving us, it's only ad kama that you are going to live. But if you're going to die, there's no mitzvah. So that's what Bechanan says. That's the machlokes. The Rambam holds that it's hutra. There's no avera here. So if you get killed, you mischayev b'nafshay, you're killing yourself on what? On something that you're not chayev. There's no issur to eat a chazer in this case. Mashenkin Teisvis holds that there is avera. Just be honest, okay? So if you over on that, if you don't want to be over the avera, there's avera over here. You're not over on the avera, therefore you considered you doing a mitzvah, and therefore you're allowed to be over to get killed and not to be over the avera. But the Ramban Mechamis has a Bam Kasha on Teisvis. Because this same drasha that we learn, we learn it also if a case that a guy is getting killed because he's sick. He's sick, or it's Shabbos and he has to go to the hospital. Pikuach nefesh. And the Gemara in Yuma learns the same drasha that if a guy has to be over avera in order to live, so v'chai ben v'lo yishamus ben. Zog the Ramban, v'lo yishamanu midas chsidus. We didn't hear a midas chsidus, a guy that can be machmir himself and be considered a chassid, l'choyle shel sakana, if a guy that's sick, ad kadei sakana, shelo yichalalu olav es ha-Shabbos, ela mezarez meshubach ve'amoyna atzma mischayev b'nafshay. We did not find a guy that kills himself because he doesn't want to be Mechal Shabbos. He don't want to be Mechal Yom Kippur. He doesn't want to eat on Yom Kippur. If a guy does such a thing, he's Mischai ben Nafshay. We never heard somebody that said that he's allowed to do such a thing. So, Frek the Ramban, if you learn from the drasha of a Chai Bohem, that you're allowed to kill yourself, to get killed in a case of when they forcing you to get killed, when they're forcing you to do Aveira or get killed. So why can't you get killed when you are forced to be Mechal Shabbos in order to live? So Rabbi Chanan says that's muchach that in a case when they force you to get killed, because there's a Kiddush Hashem over there, so then you're allowed to get killed. But it ends up with Tzarachin, and I think the Tzarachin is like this: if the drasha of a Chai Bohem means that there's a mitzvah in front of us, if there's a mitzvah in front of us, there's still, the Chai Bohem does not, it's only a D'chuya. He's onus, but he has a mitzvah in front of him. So if there's a mitzvah in front of him, so how can you say that the same drasha of a Chai Bohem by Yaver Val Yareg, when they force him to do Aveira, you say over there's a mitzvah, and he can get killed, because he's Mekayim a mitzvah. Masha'inken mepikuach nefesh of the choyle, over there you say, no, that the Chai Bohem forces him to do the Aveira. He has to drive on Shabbos to the hospital. He has to eat on Yom Kippur. What's the difference? How can you dash in the same drasha of a Chai Bohem in the same, to two different halachas, the same words? It says, but the Chai Bohem, the Torah says, Chai Bohem, and it means that the Torah was given to live and not to die. So how does it change between a choyle to somebody that he's forced? Another thing we have to understand over here is what the Shulchan Aruch continues. And the Shulchan Aruch says, when he brings Shittas Teisves, and he says that you're allowed to get killed in the case that they force you to be over Avera, and if not, they're going to kill you. The Shulchan Aruch ends in Yirtzeh Le'achmir Al'atzmoi Rasha Imayot Gechavim Mechavan L'Avir Adas. Shulchan Aruch says it's only in a case that the guy is forcing you to do the Avera Be'over Aldas. He wants you to over the Aveira in order to be over on the Torah. But if he forces you because he wants for his benefit, he wants La'ana Asai, so then you're not allowed to get killed. And the Shaila is, according to Rabbi Chanan, if the Chai Bohem by a case that a guy is forcing you to do the Aveira, the Chai Bohem just says that you're allowed to live. You're allowed to live and be over the Aveira. But really, there is Aveira in front of you, and if you're gonna get killed, it's gonna be considered that you mekayim the mitzvah. So, what is the difference if it's la'ana asai or if it's like the Avira Adas? Both cases, you mekayim the mitzvah. So we could say like this, that really the Chai Bohem, by Choyle, and by a guy that is forcing him to do Aveira, and if not, he's going to kill him. Both the cases, there's no mitzvah. When the Torah says, Chai Bohem lo yishayamus b'hem, the Torah says, the Torah is given only in order to live. But if to be Mekayim the Torah, he has to die, there's no mitzvah. There's no mitzvah in front of him, but we have a mitzvah of Kiddush Hashem. And what does the mitzvah of Kiddush Hashem say? The Gemara, the Midrash says in Parshas Noach, when the Torah says that you're not allowed to kill yourself, and it says, the pasuk says like this: Ach es dimachem edrosh. Ach es dimachem edrosh. If a guy kills himself, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to be doirish his damim. But that he killed himself. But it says ach. It's a mute. What is the mute? Yochol k'chanan Mishal ve'Azariah. Let's say also Chanan Mishal ve'Azariah HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to be toiveya from them. What, that they killed themselves? What, that they jumped into the fire? Talmud lo yimar ach. The ach is coming to tell us that Chanam, Yishar, Azariah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not going to be toiveya, even though they jumped in the fire. They jumped into the fire. There's no mitzvah. There's no aveira, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not going to be dorish. So the pshat is like this: really, mitzad v'chai bohem, v'lo yishayemus bohem. There's no mitzvah in front of us, but there's a kiddush Hashem over here. The kiddush Hashem allows the person to die, and that's why the Shulchan Aruch says only in a case that he's miskam l'avir adas, that he wants to do it in order that he's going to be over on the Torah. But if it's la'ana asay, there's no mitzvah here because the Torah says v'chai bohem. In v'chai bohem, there's no mitzvah. So mitzad the mitzvah of not eating chazir, mitzad the aveir of not eating chazir, mitzad the mitzvah of chilul Shabbos, the isra of chilul Shabbos, there's no mitzvah. But because the goy wants to force the person to be over on the Torah, that's another mitzvah. It's a different mitzvah. It's a mitzvah on Kiddush Hashem. If he has kavanah, the goy has the kavanah that he wants the yid to over on the Torah. So there's a Kiddush Hashem over here if the yid doesn't do what that the guy wants him to do. So that's the Kiddush Hashem, and on that you're allowed to be alive according to Teisus. That's what Shulchan Aruch paskins. That is Rashi lachmi al atzmai. Very nice. Now, according to this, we could explain the question we started off. We asked, what did Hanan, Mishav, and Azariah learn from the Tzfardei? And Rashi says, and they did not darshan v'chai bohem. So we asked, if over there you have the pasuk v'chai bohem because it wasn't really avodah zarah, like Teisus on the spot explains that it wasn't real avodah zarah. So there's a v'chai bohem v'lo yishayemus bohem. So what did the Gemara say? You learn from the tzvadim, you learn from the frogs. How can you learn from the frogs? The frogs don't have that mitzvah v'chai bohem v'lo yishayemus bohem. The answer is Nechanami. Rashi doesn't mean to say that they should have learned from the v'chai bohem that they have a isser to kill themselves. No. Rashi is just saying, why didn't they dash in the v'chai bohem? Because there's a mitzvah of v'chai bohem that says that there's no mitzvah. When they force somebody to be over on the Torah, why didn't they dash in the pashat v'chai bohem? What did they dash in? They dash in that there's going to be a kiddush Hashem. So the shaila is like this. Their shaila was like this. Mitzad echad we have v'chai bohem. That v'chai bohem tells us there's no mitzvah in front of us. There's no mitzvah. There's no aveira. Because we're supposed to live. But that's what it says in v'chai bohem. But mitzad sheini, they said like this. They said, but maybe there's a kiddush Hashem. Who said that it could be a kiddush Hashem in such a case that you don't have a mitzvah in front of you? Even though the guy wants to force you to be over on what the Torah says. But there's no mitzvah over here. There's no mitzvah. That they learned from the Tzfardeim. That Tzfardeim and the Chanami don't have a mitzvah. But even though they chose to jump into the fire, why? To be Mekadech chamaim. That's what they chose. And we know that they got schar in it. So that's what they learned from the Tzfardeim. And that's what we learned. That's what Chanami and Azariah learned from the Tzfardeim, that there's a mitzvah of Kiddush Hashem, even though there's no mitzvah in front of us. It's a big Chiddush. That's what we thought to explain the Gemara of the Tzfardeim and the pasuk of a chai bohem.